I've always been very Garfield-like and sloth-like. I've just been a dreamer and a sleeper. You know, like I see kids would climb trees and run around, and I'd get in a hammock with a book. I'd read like 3 books a day. Like I was a crazy reader, and always wanted to live in another world. And now that I look back at it, I realize I was never comfortable in my skin.
That was DJ and podcaster Dayna Keyes. I'm Jeff. Welcome to Storied San Francisco, a weekly podcast where San Franciscans from all walks of life share their stories, and you get to know your neighbors. In this episode, Dayna talks about losing her dad before she was even born. Her mom soon met a new man, ended up marrying him, and the three of them picked up from the South and moved to LA, where Dayna mostly grew up. She ended up acting and doing voiceovers, which were perfect outlets for her dreamy teenage self. But then she started dabbling in drugs, and things got sticky. Here's Dayna.
I was born in Jackson, Mississippi, and my father was a civil rights activist, which was not a popular thing to be in 1975 in Mississippi at all.
A white guy.
We're a mixed family.
Okay.
We're all a very mixed family.
Okay.
So, but he was shutting down whites-only restaurants and like getting death threats, and, like in the 70s, way ahead of his time. I mean, and he won. He was running for state legislature. Before this, he was like when he was early 20s. He was writing the mayor's speeches for him. Like brilliant guy. And then he won for state legislature. He was a Democrat, obviously. He won for... All right.
Well, the parties did flip at some point.
I know, yeah,
so yeah.
He was running for state legislature, and he won, and the plane was shot down. And everybody on board died. And my mom was 9 months pregnant with me. So, and yeah, it was really, I mean, and you know, when you're 9 months, you're like fully developed in your mom's body. So, I mean, I had pre-verbal stuff from that. Like, when she talks about it, I can almost feel it. Like I was there, because I kind of was. And she was only 24 years old. Right. You know, and the news, when a friend of the family was a reporter and went to the scene and was like, do not announce this till I get back and tell the family. But they announced it on the news. So that's how my mom and my whole family found out. Was like on the news, you know, and then they brought her his, I think, wedding ring and his glasses, and they were completely gnarled up,
mangled.
You know, and that she had to imagine what he looked like at that moment. Wow. And so we lived in the South, and I had this great family. My mom's side of the family are Greek and Lebanese, and the paternal side's Cajun. And which is a funny mix, but I have the most loving, amazing family. They're just, I mean, the kissing and the hugging, and that's just how my family is. And so it's like I wasn't really missing anything, because my grandfather was so like a dad to me, you know, when I was 1 and 2. But my mom has always said I was like the Cape Crusader of truth. Like the minute I could talk, I was over at some friend's house, and they were asking about my grandfather, and they were like, but he's not your dad, he's your grandfather. And then when I got in the car to leave, the woman was like to my mom, you know, heads up. And my mom goes, oh, uh-oh. And she gets in the car, first question out of my mouth. I go, where's my dad? What happened? Like 2.5 years old, just, you know. It's funny, because my motor skills weren't good, but I could have a full conversation at 18 months old. Which is... Well, it explains me. I like to lay around and talk.
You ended up using that mouth.
I did.
To make money.
That's right. I ended up using my mouth to make money, and I was never athletic. So, you know.
Perfect.
Yeah. Never good at sports. Yeah. Terrible. So, my mom met the guy that I refer to as my dad, because he is my dad, and he legally adopted me. And they got married, and he raised me, and was always my dad.
Still in Mississippi? Did they meet in Mississippi?
No, they met in New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
We bounced back and forth a lot.
Okay.
And I think he was playing a concert. He was in a little-known band called the Doobie Brothers. And they were playing a concert in New Orleans, and my mom went backstage and met him, and he fell madly in love with her. Usually it's the other way around, and she, you know, but oh my God, he would send things to the house, and they were always on the phone. And he was one of 8 kids from the Midwest, which is funny, and he always wanted kids. He was a kid, I'm told I'm the same way. Like, kids think I'm their age. And I just experienced that over the weekend with my friend's 11-year-old daughter. Because we got along so good last year, and now I feel like she's a little too mature for me. So I think I'm at 10. I think I maxed out at 10, and that's just where my maturity level and my emotional sensibilities lie. Like, I love Mad Libs. I play Mad Libs alone in the bathroom on the toilet.
Were you your mom's only kid at the time?
My mom's only kid to this day.
Still do. So when she met...
And my dad's, yeah.
When she met your dad, like, there was the one kid that came with her.
Yes.
And he was, like, stoked on that.
He was what? Oh,
he was
so excited. So excited. He just... And I always said my favorite thing about him was the first day I met him, he came to pick me up from daycare and was holding 2 roses, one for each of my hands. You know, like, not one for me and one for my mom, but 2 for me.
That's adorable.
And his favorite thing was the way I looked from one rose to the other and then looked at him and went, ha, like, so excited. Like, who is this guy? Yeah. I loved him. Like, we were immediately bonded, and we were best friends for forever. And he was an active addict and an alcoholic at the time, which I didn't know, and I never really suffered from that. Like, I mean, I saw my parents fight. That's it. Mm-hmm. Like, he never, drove me wasted or nodded out in the car. Like, nothing bad ever happened. He never beat me or,
Did it make sense in hindsight as you became an adult? You're like, oh, yeah, those things?
Little things. Like a little thing. Like, for example, when he was on heroin, I remember he'd be on the couch. We'd be watching TV, and I just remember his cigarette ash would get like 3 inches long because you could be very still on heroin. So he was over there watching TV, and I would run with the ashtray, catch it, and then go back. But literally, there's nothing upsetting about that to me.
No.
They're just. Not at all. But I mean, one thing about me as a kid is I would never wanted to be in reality. Like, I had this crazy great life. Like, I was always on tour. And we're going around and traveling, but I would meet people when we were on tour, and I would tell them a fake name and a fake story about me. I would say that, like, my mom sold encyclopedias and my name was Rachel. And it's so funny, these people would then meet my mom and go, oh, you must be Rachel's mom. And she was like, no, but I bet I'm the mom of the girl who told you her name was Rachel.
Oh my God! Like you were just like having a little wonderland.
I've always been a little storyteller, like a maker-upper of things, if you will. So, yeah.
When you said tour, you mean Doobies?
Yeah, the Doobie Brothers. Yeah. I was on tour with them all the time. We were always in Hawaii, and the Doobie Brothers are like, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like we're just one big, huge family. Like, they're a family band, especially now. Like the other kids.
Generations.
The other Doobie kids who have kids, those are like my nieces and nephews. And it's like I feel like I have siblings.
Yeah.
Even though I'm an only child.
So you kind of grew up in Mississippi,
New Orleans?
Or...
I completely forgot to mention
that. That's all right. No.
So my dad lived in the Bay Area. Oh, my dad's a Bay Area guy. Okay. Lives in Nicasio, which is in Marin County. Yeah. And he lived on Lucas Valley Road. He shared the mountain with George Lucas.
I was just there yesterday.
It's so pretty.
I love it.
Nicasio is just idyllic and beautiful. So we came up here, and I don't remember why. I think it was for business. I'm not sure, but I do know the Doobie Brothers broke up for a while back then, and we moved to Los Angeles. So
back then, like early or 80s?
Early 80s, yeah. And so me and my mom, with our very thick Southern accents, are now living in L.A.
Okay.
And everyone's like, where are you from? The way the kids were like, are you from Texas? Oh, I know, the Valley.
Very not.
I know, I'm like, no. Because I was like friendly, and I called the teachers ma'am and called everybody y'all, and and these kids were like, just, Valley kids.
Was it a Southern accent or a Cajun accent?
Very thick, both. Like, very, very, it was just so thick that I was hard to understand.
Does your mom still have it?
You know what's funny is she has my whole life, but I feel like there's something she does when she's talking to people, like in a group setting where they don't all know her, that she hides it. Oh. And I've noticed it more recently, and it upsets me because I love her Southern accent. Yeah. I think it's adorable. But when she came here in the 80s, everybody was into like New Age, Ram Dass and all and everybody's going to women's groups. And she felt like her accent made her sound dumb.
Oh.
I know. Yeah. And she wasn't, but I get it. Sometimes that is a common misconception. People hear you talk and they're, you sound like Andy Griffith. Right. Yes.
So you guys moved to LA.
We moved to LA and
you were about like what, 7 or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I don't remember. Yeah, I think it was about 6 or 7. And so I started school there and I grew up there.
How was it But but both Bay Area and LA, being a kid from the South, like what was it like to be that young and be like, oh, I live in California now? This is.
I was very excited about. I mean, my dad. I didn't want to move to California, and I don't know. I think I was excited about it, but I don't know if I wanted to live there. But immediately upon arriving in LA, my biggest crush was Arthur Fonzarelli. My whole life. Immediately upon arriving, my dad took me to a taping of Happy Days, and I met the Fonz.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm good at this point. I'm fine. Yeah, we could stay here.
Did he do the snap and you came running?
No, and that to this day is something I'm bummed about. He was so nice.
He's Henry Winkler. He's
the
insanely
nicest
nice
human
man.
being in the world. I know. And later on, like my first job, one of my first jobs in high school was at Tower Records, and he came in, and I remember a guy being like, the Fonz is here, and I'm like, you're gonna be so let down. I love watching people being let down. The guy was like, dude, he was so nice. And I'm like, you're the Fonz, hit something.
I remember
But he's not. He calls you sweetheart, and he wants to look for the classical music section. And I went to like a lot of private schools growing up. A lot of other, there was a lot of kids of celebrities there. It was very hippie. There's a school called Oakwood.
This is down in LA.
This is in LA. And it's very Oakwood was like the less than zero school in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Oakwood and Buckley, and Bret Easton Ellis, who wrote Less Than Zero, went to Buckley.
Of course.
So it's like, and we were very connected with them. So I mean, it was a different world. All the kids wore shirts that said "Question Authority." They quote they on their senior page would quote the Rolling Stones or the Beatles, and it was just they all kind of wanted to be '60s kids or something, and that was just what I was used to. And then. Once I got to high school, I went to LA County High School for the Arts, which you have to audition to get into, but it's free. And that was like in East LA.
What did you audition for?
Theater. Yes, okay. I had already done acting as a kid. I did tons of voiceovers, but did a lot of TV commercials, notably a Rainbow Bright commercial with Heather O'Rourke from Poltergeist. God rest her soul.
R.I.P.
Yes, R.I.P. And, of course, because she was blonde, and this is L.A. in the 80s, she was blonde and cute and little, and we were the same age, but I was, brunette and a lot bigger than her, so I played Lurky, the hairy beast. Because I could do this voice thing like this, so I was Lurky, and she was the pretty little Rainbow Bright.
Oh, my God. Does that commercial look like, can we find it now?
You know what? I've looked for it. My husband's looked for it. It's so hard to find. I don't know. I feel like it should be findable.
Someone out there listening.
Right. Someone out there must have it.
Let's get this.
And I did a High C commercial. I did an episode of General Hospital where I was just like a kid in the hospital. And then I auditioned for... I was doing really well, and I felt good about it, and I liked it. And then I auditioned for something that was obviously written for me called Punky Brewster.
Okay.
And it was down to me and Soleil Moon Frye. But again, and I was the real life Punky Brewster. I wore different colored Converse and blue nail polish, and but again, she was tiny. Soleil is still tiny. I mean, she came up to my waist back then, even though she was older.
She was unknown before that role. Was she not? I don't know that she...
I have no idea.
We'll figure it out
She was
later.
Adorable.
Yeah, but you're saying you were real life and she was...
Right. I felt like I was Punky Brewster, but they were and afterwards they were like, you know what? This was such a hard decision. You guys are so great, but we thought about it. And instead of saying, she looks younger than you or she's smaller, they said, but you're just too big.
That's always awesome to hear.
I mean, and it didn't really register with me, but my mom heard it and was like, nope, no more, never again. Never. She was so worried that I was, you know what I mean? She didn't want me to hear things like that. Because, after a while, I could have become anorexic, and maybe it would have affected me. You know, maybe I would have stopped eating. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I didn't register, thankfully, and my mom let me continue to act doing voiceovers.
Okay.
So, my first radio commercial, and it's so funny, because growing up with your dad being in a band, I've met everybody, and I'd never care. But my first radio commercial was with the voice of Garfield.
Oh my God.
And I have never been so starstruck. Oh my God. I mean, they were we were doing mic checks, and they're like, Dayna. And I'm like, that's Garfield. And he was so touched. Yeah. He was the sweetest man. He's this little Italian man named Lorenzo Music. So adorable.
I think I've heard that.
He was
before.
the voice of everything.
Everything, yeah.
But he was so touched and honored by that, and we got to do more commercials together after that. So that was like the highlight. That was my joy.
Did you ask him to say "I hate Mondays"?
No, I didn't. I was that starstruck.
Right.
It was amazing.
Okay, so you switched over to, you said radio commercials?
Oh no,
yeah.
This is radio, voiceovers for radio and for TV.
Okay.
And then I ended up going to Arts High, and it was all theater. It was all theater from there, and like I just planned on probably doing theater for the rest. Maybe indie. I wanted to do indie films.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, really, when I was in high school, I wanted like David Lynch was my dream guy to work with.
Like late 80s.
Yeah, like
now,
I was
going
gonna
to
work with David Lynch,
Yeah.
and then after that, I was like Quentin Tarantino was my guy.
Yeah.
Like I was gonna work with these people, and I was gonna have this career. And unfortunately for me, drugs came into the picture.
Okay.
And I'm an addict, so my whole life became consumed by drugs.
I guess just walk us through.
Okay. Well, so like I told you, my dad was an addict, and he got clean and sober when I was about 10 and a half years old. Okay. So I always knew about recovery and sobriety and that drugs are bad. And
the way out.
Yeah, the way out. And I watched what it did to him. And because of that, I wouldn't touch them. And everybody who knew me knew that. They were like, don't talk about drugs in front of her. It was so funny to think of me as being as anti as I was. I was into straight edge. I was just like, disgusting.
Yeah.
Drugs are gross.
X's on
and
your hands.
And they are, yeah.
And,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I loved going to all ages shows because they would put the X's on my hands. I was proud,
straight
so
edge
proud.
Music and everything.
Oh yeah, I loved Minor Threat and Fugazi, and it's so fun. But what's really funny is like they would even now. Well, now because I'm sober, I'll go to shows and they're like, do you want a wristband? I'm like, no. And can you put an X on my hand, please, for old time's sake?
Full circle.
I know.
I love
full
it.
circle.
I love it.
But so I was in high school, and there was this drug that everyone was referring to as crystal. And it was the only thing I'd never heard of. Mm-hmm. See, if they came to me and they were like, cocaine, I'd be like, nope, my dad talked about that. I know what that is. Or if they said heroin, I'd be like, oh, absolutely not. That took my dad down. Mm-hmm. And alcohol to me was always, it's so funny, it was just the grossest thing. The smell of it. I hated the way adults acted when they drank.
Like anybody, beer, wine, every alcohol?
Yeah, it was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Except like my uncle who would like, just drink beer and smoke cigarettes like a regular person. I liked the way it smelled on him.
Yeah.
But like my mom is so not an alcoholic. She's an incredible lightweight, and she'll drink like, a sip of a glass of wine and she'll be like tanked, and I would be so embarrassed and angry. I was such a terrible kid. Okay. But so this crystal thing that I'd never heard of. And another thing about me is I've always been very Garfield-like and sloth-like. I've just been a dreamer and a sleeper. Like I see kids would climb trees and run around, and I'd get in a hammock with a book. I'd read like 3 books a day. Like I was a crazy reader.
Okay.
And always wanted to live in another world. And now that I look back at it, I realize I was never comfortable in my skin. I was never like just okay with reality. Even now.
I was going to say theater and some of the voice work you were doing and drugs are,
make believe.
They're other worlds.
They're other worlds. Absolutely. They're other worlds. And all the books I read when I was a little kid, like A Wrinkle in Time and, The Phantom in the Toll Booth, like I just was so into this magical world. Like not Lord of the Rings. I didn't read that till I was adult. Why can't I? The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Favorite all-time book, favorite all-time story. Like I was just, and literally I would go to my grandparents' house because in the South all the houses are big and they're very haunted.
Yeah.
And I would know in that closet if I walked in there was another world, but I wouldn't open it because there was definitely a ghost in there. Like it's so funny. I go back and I look at these closets and I still know that ghost is in there. It's like just so visceral. But so I tried this. So I was very lazy, was my point with the whole sloth spirit animal thing. Like, I'm just lazy. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. Can I drive on it? And they were like,
Crystal.
Crystal, yeah. So can I drive on it? And they said, yes. So I did it. And I was like, I need this.
I like how it's LA and you're like, can I drive on that?
Dude, I know, right? Right? Seriously. Oh, later?
I'll try the drug if I can drive on it.
Then 24 hours after I had that question, I never drove sober for 5 years.
Right.
Yeah, so there's that.
Right.
But, so I was awake, and I was so shy in high school. Like, I think a lot of people might have thought I was stuck up because I was quiet, and I have, I can look tough and angry when I'm not smiling, even though I'm not. My personality is goofy. But I was able to be me all of a sudden. I felt like I was able to be me. I was able to be talkative. And first of all, I was able to do homework. which was I was able to get up in the morning.
And yet no longer sloth-like.
No.
Not on that set.
I'm awake and ready. It was, I mean, the first couple days I chewed my face off, and I thought I was fine, but my friend who introduced me to it was like, dude, stop chewing your face.
Well, your friend should have given you gum. Hello.
I think we weren't allowed to have gum. I think we were in theater class.
Sake.
I know, right? I know. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
I'm here doing Crystal in the bathroom, and you're not going to let me chew gum. I should have said that to the teacher. That might have put an end to my little...
Otherwise, you would have been fine. You'd have been
know.
like, I'm an addict, but I have my teeth.
Exactly,
So
exactly. My teeth are good. I think I did start chewing gum after that. 'Cause
After
I did
you
keep
chewed
my teeth.
After you chewed your face off.
Yeah, it was more like I was chewing my bottom lip, because the next day I had that, like, Beverly Hills duck lip looking thing. Like, yeah, it was just swollen.
Yeah. But obviously, and I think you just said it, you liked what it did.
I liked what it did, and I did it for an entire year and a half straight.
Like every day?
Literally.
Oh, wow.
Not a day went by where I didn't do it.
Okay.
And it took me to my knees in that period of time. By the end of it, like, I couldn't find the glassy looking stuff we were doing. It was like brown and wet and just making me feel... I think what that was I don't know what that is they call it. It's like not it's something very different, but it's still speed, but it's a chemical, and it's gross. And I was like, I feel awful. Like, I can't even feel good anymore, and I don't want to do this anymore. So I literally slept for like an entire week. And then I walked out. This was like the summer between my junior and senior year. And I walked out to the living room, and I was about to come clean with my parents, and I was like, hey, you guys, look. And they were like, sit down and shut up. And I was like, okay. And they're like, you're going to rehab. And I'm like, no, I'm not. It was already my idea to quit. You can't do that. I was just going to tell you I was going to, And
they
then,
beat
of course,
you to it.
Yeah, they beat me to it.
Okay.
And I mean, for my dad to see that, because teachers would call them in and go, she's on something. And my dad would chew them out. Like, how dare you, like, accuse her of that after she saw what I went through? There's no way. And that was another reason it was just so devastating. I didn't want to tell them because I didn't want him to be like, what are you thinking?
And this was, you said, before your senior year?
Yeah.
Was it going to be instead
it's funny
of?
because I still had baby fat and I looked normal, and all of a sudden, like, summer happened. I went back to school my junior year and people were like, what?
Right.
I mean, I was stick skinny. My skin was bad. I always wore sunglasses. My eyes were so sunken in.
You're a meth addict.
I was a meth addict.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And, so they put me in, and this is so LA, they put me in this place called CPC Westwood. And the first person I saw when I got there was Todd Bridges from Different Strokes. And I know I'm not breaking his anonymity because he's very openly in recovery. Sweetest guy ever, by the way. So sweet. And then that weekend they had a public speaker come in. It was Corey Feldman.
Of course.
So, yeah. So the thing is, like, we're in this place, and but the kids that I was in there with were in there for like behavioral issues. They were like, "You did what?"
Right.
So I was kind of being shipped out and then put in group with the grown-ups, but I didn't relate to them either because they were shooting heroin, and I was like, "That's crazy."
That's a different level.
Totally different level, yeah, whole nother level. But so I spent the summer doing treatment and doing outpatient. My dad really wanted me to go to AA because he did, and I hated it. I did not relate to anyone in there. I felt like they were just all old. And I'll talk about alcohol. I'm like, alcohol's so stupid.
Yeah. And
lame.
Addiction's addiction, but alcohol's different.
Alcohol's a different thing. Yeah, it's just a different thing. And I didn't think I was an alcoholic because I had never done it, So I basically just kind of stopped. And then I just lived like a normal teenager life my senior year. And
still doing theater?
Still doing theater, yeah. I was doing theater. I was working at Tower Records in Hollywood. Like, yeah, just having fun. Like, sometimes maybe we would, trip. We would, do acid or something. Or maybe
Harmless,
smoke pot, once every 3 months.
Right.
But I didn't love those things.
Was theater kind of like your thing? You were thinking like, I'm going to do this?
Clown was my thing.
Clown.
I liked physical comedy.
Okay.
Commedia dell'arte. Yeah. Like, I love that. Like, I like funny, crazy slapstick.
Okay.
One of my favorite shows, or one of my favorite people in the world is John Ritter. And, like, I grew up with him just making me laugh,
Yes.
and I just became very into that kind of theatrics. And it was great, and I had full intention to like go to NYU or Juilliard. I did not get into Juilliard, and because my thing was I didn't do homework. Like I've always been this half-ass underachiever my whole life. You know what I mean? Like the only reason I graduated from school is because my theater teachers loved me. Because it was the Fame High School, Fame, the school. It was that's what it was. Like you went to your academic classes from like 9 to noon or 8 to noon, and then from 1 to 4 you went to your elective. And I, by my senior year, was showing up at noon just to have lunch with my friends before I went to my elective. And all the academic teachers were like, "She's so out of here."
Yeah.
But my theater teachers were like, "No way, she's in my play." Like, no way. So, I mean, like, big shout out to my theater teachers for just being as loving and cool as they were. Like, a couple of them I'm still friends with them. And, like, one of them was just my hero when he taught me about clown and all that. Right. It's because I was finally able to get out of myself and not get in my own way without being high. It was, like, the greatest feeling. It was like I found myself. Awesome. But I had really bad grades.
Not doing homework.
Yeah, there's the whole not doing homework thing. It's like I'm sorry, without math I can't do this. So
right.
Yeah. So yeah, I auditioned for colleges. Like all my friends went to the East Coast. I didn't. I ended up staying in LA, working Tower Records, and going to UCLA. And slowly, because I'm a sloth, my UCLA classes got less and less till it was like one night class.
Oh.
Or, just I was sick of it.
Yeah, you just weren't
feeling
school.
Wanted to act. Yeah,
right,
it's
right.
like I don't want to take ballet. I want to be a ballerina. That defines me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be here doing this. So yeah, it's like it's like if I'm interested in something, I don't even need to study it. I can tell you everything about it. If I'm not, I literally have to reread one paragraph over and over. I'm like, I just don't care. I don't care. If I don't care, I don't care.
Yeah.
But so, I ended up staying in LA, and I had nothing. Like, I had no goals, really. And what was I doing? And I was going to start acting again, but I was really lagging getting into it. Like, the headshots and all that. My boyfriend from high school broke up with me, I think because I was leaning on him too much, probably. Like, because I had no focus. And I got really devastated when that happened, and I started drinking and partying a lot.
Were you already living on your own, away from your mom's house, or
at that time?
Like after high school?
No, I was still living with my parents.
Still living
with my parents in North Hollywood.
Okay.
And I just went through this like awful depression, and I was using chemicals and like drinking, and so my dad. It's like, dude, it's the Bay Area. It's LA. My parents hated LA. I don't know why they lived there because they hated it the whole time we were there. They would never shut up about how much they hated it.
Was it for the band originally, or why?
I think maybe.
Yeah.
I think so. I'll have to ask my mom. That's a good question.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But all I know that they were like, we got to get out of here. We hate it. And I remember being like, you cannot. I will stay. I will move in with my friends because I loved my friends.
Yeah.
And my LA was not the Kardashian LA. My LA was fun. My LA was rad. Like I had a great childhood. We had so much fun doing so much crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And I knew all these artists. We were just always doing really artistic. We were doing performance art and just being weirdos. It was great. I had the greatest child.
But
my teenagers ruled.
Your parents were like, the Bay Area is your punishment.
No, they like,
it.
It was after high school that I got depressed, and all my friends were gone. Well, most of them.
Okay.
They were all at school in the East Coast. That my parents were like, you got to go, like, just try this. And my dad was like, Marin. Marin was where I was when I was your age, and it's the greatest place. And it's like, okay, I get that Mill Valley was one way in the 70s, but check it out. It was not like that in the late 90s at all.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that a Grateful Dead sticker on a Range Rover? I've never seen that. That's great.
Yeah. That was Dayna Keyes. Check back Thursday for part 2, when Dayna will talk about moving up to the Bay Area and the roller coaster ride of her young adulthood. Music for Storied San Francisco is by Otis MacDonald. Film photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. The show is hosted and produced by me, Jeff Hunt. Our website is storiedsf.com, where you can browse more than 100 episodes, check out all of our live events, and visit our store to help support us. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to the show on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If that's Apple Podcasts or iTunes, please do us a favor and rate and review what we do. And if you have any feedback for us or suggested guests, our email is storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.